I am really excited seeing all of your faces. And before I turn this call over to Gay, there we go. I'd like to introduce myself and let you know what kind of call you're on right now. So my name is Michelle Yasuda, and I'm the program director for the Foundation for Conscious Living's Big Leap Home online programs. And these programs support individuals, communities, and organizations in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And I am so excited to have you join our space here where we play with Hendricks tools together. And what better way to do that than with Gay? So I'll just go over a couple of logistics before we get started. So I want to invite you all to join our Big Leap Home network, which is a gathering space for the Hendricks Institute and the Foundation for Conscious Living's community. So it's a platform where you can connect with the Hendricks community as well as receiving updates on events and resources. So I'll put that link in the chat once I'm settling into the call. So if you have questions during the call, feel free to put those in the chat. You can also raise your electronic hand, and at the right moment, we'll go ahead and send those calls over to Gay. So we like to introduce our guests by saying an appreciation. And when I thought about appreciating you, Gay, I thought about the very first time I met you. And it was about 6 years ago. I walked into a seminar in the summer in Ventura County. And I had this chronic back thing that was happening. First time in my life that I had something. It was months of a back pain. And I sit down and you came in and you started teaching breathing. And I started to breathe and move. And I started to osmose your spaciousness. And by the time I left that seminar, the back pain was completely gone.
Wow.
And it was a really profound experience. And I have found every interaction with you since then to be filled with that spaciousness. And I'm so happy that you were willing to be here in our community tonight. And I'm excited to turn the call over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. That was very lovely to hear. I always say I get to live on a steady diet of miracles because every day when I open my inbox, I get to hear things like that, but I never get tired of it. So I appreciate you for sharing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, since I learned all this, I haven't had a back pain either. So it's worked or a headache. Well, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. This is a great joy for me too. I take every opportunity to teach and talk about these kinds of things. You know, this afternoon I was talking to a big Australian audience via one of their popular podcasts down in Australia. And a couple of weeks from now, I'm going to fly off to New York and talk about this at the Plaza Hotel with a little group, and then I'm going to fly back here. And so wherever I go in the world, what I'm up to is exactly what I wrote about in the first paragraph of the new book, which I would just love to read to you. It says, "Welcome to one of the most important conversations a conscious human being ever has. How to live your whole life in a continuous upward spiral of your creative genius." So welcome to one of the most important conversations a human being ever has. You're in it right now. And the conversation is about how to open up to doing more and more of what you most love to do, while simultaneously inspiring other people to do what they most love to do. And so that's what we're here for in this particular time together. And so if you agree with that idea, if that's something you want, just take a couple of breaths to that. Just open up and take a few of those big kind of breaths that you see people modeling around the screen here. Just kind of open up and say a yes via your breathing in yourself. Yeah. And let me go a little bit further and tell you that the very first concept in the new book, The Genius Zone, is about commitment. And the entry point to your genius today and going forward is by making a conscious commitment to it. And the conscious commitment goes like this: I commit to bringing forth more and more of my genius every day of my life. So let's begin by applying that directly to yourself. Think of that idea. The idea is that I commit to bringing forth more of my genius every day of my life. So it's a good example of what you have control of and what you don't have control of, which I'll be talking about more later, because that's also a key to your genius. By making a conscious commitment, you actually have control over that. You can just do it. You can say, I commit to that. What you don't have any control over is how that's going to show up and the different things that are going to go on to get you to that. But if you keep coming home to that basic fundamental commitment to bringing forth more of your genius every day, I can promise you a really interesting ride. I've been doing that now for the last almost 50 years. And it's taken me all the way around the world 30 or 40 times now. And it's taken me on different continents of the world. But it's always sustained me because every day of my life, I get to see that commitment coming more and more true. So let's take it one step at a time. So first of all, just try on that idea. I commit. Let's try that on a few times. I commit. What does that feel like to you? I commit. Say it to yourself in your mind a couple of times and see what it feels like in your body. Just think it to yourself. I commit. To me, commitment is sacred because it involves that journey that I talk about as the longest journey of any human being's life, is the 12-inch journey from their head down to their heart. And to get the head and the heart together, that's conscious commitment. When you use the power of your mind and the power of your heart together and make a sincere, heartfelt commitment, everything else takes care of itself. Because if you can get clear with the universe that this is what you want, then the universe can line up behind that to support you. But if you're not clear about it, if you're muddled, if your mind is going one way and your body is going another way and your heart is going this way and your thoughts are going the other way, then it makes it hard for the universe to serve you. And we always say, Katie and I say, that the universe is like a big cosmic waiter or waitress. It's there awaiting you to say, here's what I want. Here's what I've got my heart behind. And then once that happens, you are then in harmony with the universe so that things happen to you along the way that are supportive of your genius. So back to the basics. Now let's add another clause. I commit to bringing forth more and more of my genius. Try that on a few times. I commit to bringing forth more and more of my genius. Think it in your mind, try it on in your body, see what it feels like, kind of like trying on a new shirt or a new pair of pants or something, just kind of trying it on, seeing how it fits. And then add the third part. I commit to bringing forth more and more of my genius every day of my life. From here on to eternity, that's what I'm about. So just try on the whole concept now again. I commit to bringing forth more and more of my genius every day of my life. And here's how we're going to do that. Now that you have it in your mind, we're going to do a very simple process that links that up with your breathing in your body. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to say it in your mind. I commit to bringing forth more and more of my genius every day of my life. And then I want you to take 3 gentle, easy breaths that go about 10 seconds per breath. So let me show you real slow breathing. So here's a 10-second breath. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you don't have to get that perfect, but just aim for a real slow, easy breath. The reason is if you can slow your breathing down to less than about 10 cycles per minute, it turns off the stress chemistry in your body. Your body won't produce the acetylcholine and stuff like that that makes you feel stressed. So the process again, you can do this with eyes closed or eyes open. So you're going to say the sentence, say the commitment. I commit to bringing forth more and more every day of my life. Then 3 easy breaths. 1, 10 seconds, 2, 10 seconds, 3, 10 seconds. So every repetition will take you about 30 seconds to do the saying of the mantra and then the easy breathing. So I want you to do 4 or 5 rounds of that. So I'm going to give you 2 or 3 minutes to do that. So get ready. Close your eyes or leave them open. Feel your way down into your body. And then go ahead. Say the mantra and then 3 easy breaths. And then repeat the mantra again. Good. And now do one more round of that and then bring it in for a landing. Say it one more time and then go to the breathing. Good. And then gently return your attention back toward the outside, back toward my voice, back toward me. And just take note of how you feel now and anything you learned. You can jot down if you'd like anything that you've learned during this past 2 or 3 minutes, anything your mind or your body surprised you with. Great quotation from the French philosopher Blaise Pascal. All of humankind's problems come from the inability to sit in a room by ourselves for 10 minutes doing nothing. So as soon as possible. Sit in a room for 10 minutes doing nothing, but I'm going to give you some things to do. So take note of what happened in that little experiential moment. And then I want to go a little bit deeper now into what genius actually feels like and looks like. So I want you to home in on a particular feeling in your body. It's a feeling like, I think the first place I experienced it was when I was a kid, like even before going to school. I remember I was playing out in the side yard, and I was kind of an only child in the sense that there weren't any other kids my age in the neighborhood for the first 6 or 7 years of my life. And then a couple of other kids moved in and everything. So it was different. But I spent a lot of time playing by myself. And so I had some complicated game going in the side yard. And all of a sudden I heard my mother's loud voice saying, "Gay, come in, it's dinner time." And I hadn't realized that she'd already called me several times. She told me this, and that, why did I have to call you 4 times and shout at you? Because you're only 20 feet away. And the only answer I could give was, I was just so into what I was doing that I didn't actually hear it. So think about those kind of moments, not the ones that get you in trouble, but when you're lost in play. What were you doing? What kind of activity were you doing? Were you playing basketball or shooting hoops? Or for me, I loved sports, but I didn't have any other kids to play with. So I used to spend a lot of time dribbling basketballs in the side yard and that kind of thing. And also marbles. I loved marbles. And so I would play these solitaire games of marbles where I would have to knock the marble out of the circle and that kind of thing. But whatever it was for you, just take note of what that feeling was of being lost in play, because that's a hint to what your genius is now. Like, I can't remember if it was in The Big Leap or the new book, where I tell the story of when I got my first tricycle. What I got, it was raining that day, so my grandmother let me pedal it around the living room. She had a big living room. And what I did my first day was I got my granddad to put a big cardboard box in the corner of the living room, and I would commute to my cardboard box on my tricycle, and then I would get into the box and I would sit there. And the idea was that people were supposed to come and tell me their problems, and I would tell them how to fix their problems. And I lived in Leesburg, Florida, a town of 10,000 people in 1950 or so when this is taking place. And there was no psychologist or psychiatrist or anything but ministers in the town, and regular physical doctors. But there was no such thing as a therapist. So where did I get this idea? And I couldn't even explain it to my family, because they say, "What do you mean? What kind of, are you a doctor?" I said, no. I don't deal with regular physical problems. You go to an ordinary doctor for that. But anyway, I didn't have good success explaining it now. But what I was really getting at was what I do now. Because to me, there's nothing more satisfying in the world of work than being with people as they clear up and transcend some issue and move into a bigger version of themselves where more of their genius is on display. So what's your version of that? What could you get lost in play doing? Another way to ask the question, we'll ask it in a moment in another experiential activity, is to focus in on what you most love to do now or in the past. Or if you have a job now and you don't feel like your genius is being well tapped, ask yourself, is there a little part of my job that I really, really love? That can be a key, because then it becomes a possibility of doing that more and more and more. So we'll get into that in just a moment, but let's start at the very simplest thing. Back into your breathing experiential mode for a moment. Take a few easy breaths. Get your awareness in your body and your mind. So the context of this is we're going to be focusing in on asking more about what you most love to do, and be very open-hearted about it. Just take the answers that your mind comes up with. Maybe two or three of them will be frivolous, but maybe then you hit something that's solid gold. But be very friendly and open during this process. So it's a very simple thing I want you to do. I want you to ask your question in the following way. I want you to start it each time with a genuine hum. Like wonder. Like, I'd really like to know. So try that on first. Like genuine wonder. Hmm, hmm, And then here's the question. What do I most love to do? And then I want you to go to your 3 easy breaths. Okay. What do I most love to do? And then just let the question filter out into the air, filter down into your body while you're taking those 3 easy breaths. What do I most love to do? 3 easy breaths. Okay, go right on into that. We'll be doing that for 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll call you back together again. What do I most love to do? Good. And then do one more round of that with your question and your breath, and then gradually return your attention back to the outside again. Good. And then again, take note in your body, just kind of do a body scan and notice how your body is taking to all these ideas coming through. I'm kind of giving you the cosmic crash course tonight, a compressed course, because I want to get a lot of stuff into our short time together tonight. And also, I don't want to give you a sense of cosmic indigestion. So I want to take it and keep it, make sure we stay in our bodies while we're talking about all these big new ideas. So notice that as we've gone along this evening, I've done a lot of, taken a lot of pains to make sure you go back and forth between your mind and your body and working the two together, because that's where the power of our kind of manifestation comes from. It's by connecting up the power of this amazing function up here with its ability to visualize things and language and that kind of thing. But by itself, our minds have no power. But when we combine them with this power of our deeper consciousness, our body consciousness, our spirituality, that's when the mind becomes exceptionally illuminated and has a great deal of power to it. You can link things up here and have a great deal more power than when you're just operating from one or the other level. All right, so feel free to put in the chat your experiences or file away any questions you'd like to ask. I'll pause in a little while for a formal question answering process, but wave at me if something, a hot item comes up. I'm always willing to take a diversion to answer a hot question. So what you've been doing is what we call wonder questions. And wonder questions have enormous power because when you ask a question that you genuinely, sincerely would like to know the answer to, and you genuinely, sincerely do not know the answer to it, that is power because you're standing open to the creative power of the universe to allow it to work through you. So when you can come out with, here's what I really want to know. I'm open to knowing this thing, and I admit that I really don't know it. That's incredible power. All right, I would like to chug right along into the next chunk of what I want to talk about, which is what I call the genius moment. In the new book, let's see, did I hold it up? I think I did, but in case I didn't, the new book, The Genius Zone, is based on two big concepts. The Big Leap was also based on two big concepts. In the Big Leap, the two big concepts were the upper limit problem, how to keep from sabotaging yourself when things start to go well. And the second thing was about the zone of genius, or what I now call the genius zone, has fewer words to it. Why use three words when you can just use two? So in the new book, The Genius Zone, I also have two big concepts. One is what I call the genius moment, and the second one is what I call the genius move. So I want to spend the next little period of time talking about the genius moment. Oddly enough, the most common genius moments, the ones that happen every day, are moments that you don't ordinarily think would be genius moments because they are moments when you get stuck, when you feel stuck, or when you can't figure out the solution to something, or when you're feeling kind of off center inside, when you're feeling gritchy and you don't know why. So any of those kind of off center feelings or out of sorts feelings, listen up, troops, they are there because you are in that moment trying to control something that you actually don't have any control over. What gets us stuck, in other words, is trying to control something that there's no possibility of controlling or changing. So, for example, thinking about the past will really get you stuck quickly because you don't have any control over it. It already happened. Same thing about 99% of the future is not worth thinking about because it's about stuff that you don't have any possibility of controlling. And the problem is, as human beings, we get so tied up in thinking about stuff we don't have any control over that we overlook doing the very things that would bring satisfaction and joy in this moment. So, for example, a person can spend all day, let's say a person on a diet, can spend all day obsessing about what they're going to weigh when they get on the scales the next morning. I've been there. Many of you have probably been there too. I used to be obese. And I remember when I was lost in that particular drama that I would fret about what the scales were going to say the next day. I had no control over that whatsoever. But by fretting, I would forget to do the simple things like eating things that would actually make me weigh less tomorrow. So I get wound up about things I didn't have any control over. Then I would overeat, and then I would end up going the wrong direction on the scales the next day. So it took me a long time to figure that out, that where I was putting my attention was on stuff I had no control over. So take a breath and just try that one on. That the idea is, instead of resisting and feeling bad about those moments where you're stuck, savor them, open up and ask yourself, what am I trying to control here that's not within my power to control? What am I focusing on changing that there's no possibility of my changing it? That's a key question. And I want to now reveal over my shoulder this says the Epictetus algorithm. The Epictetus algorithm. Who is Epictetus, you might wonder? Well, first of all, spell it epic, E-P-I-C, and then Tetus, T-E-T-U-S, Epictetus. He was a philosopher and a spiritual teacher that lived approximately the same time as Jesus was living over in Israel. Epictetus was hanging out mostly up in Rome. And he ran one of the biggest schools in town, a philosophy school, which would be kind of like their version of Esalen. You were there to learn things that had to do with personal growth. Well, he never wrote a book. Epictetus never wrote a book, but his students collected his sayings and assembled them in a book. In Greek, it's called the Enchiridion. If you want a good translation of it here, look up The Art of Living. It's a translation by Sharon Labelle, The Art of Living. It's a translation of the Enchiridion. But the first part of it says this: the secret of happiness is knowing there are some things you can control and some things you cannot control. It's the origin of the thing that's in this serenity prayer that AA and other 12-step groups use, this idea of declaring that there are some things I can control and some things I cannot control, and the wisdom to know the difference. So Epictetus thought that was important enough to list as his number one concept. So for the past 2,000 years, people have been applying that in one way or the other. And I want you to start a very practical application of it by noticing whenever you get stuck or feel out of sorts, and use what I call the Epictetus algorithm, which is to ask yourself, what am I trying to control here that I don't have any power to control? A good example is a lot of us get caught up in worrying about how somebody else feels about us. And that's something we have absolutely no control over. That's over there in their nervous system, whether they like us or not. And oddly enough, human beings, including myself at times, get so focused on trying to manage what other people think of us that we forget to do the very things in this moment that could cause them to think well of us. Instead of getting caught up in whether somebody likes you, pick up the phone and say, hey, I was just wondering if you like me or not. Could we have a conversation about that? Because it's something that worries me. Well, the person may say yes or no, but on the other hand, that's much better than sitting there stewing about something that you have no control over. And so always be looking. The genius moments in life are when you feel stuck or feel out of sorts, or you got a problem going with somebody, and you open up and let go of control of what you've been trying to control, because that moment opens you up to a direct contact with the creative essence of the universe. You've let go of forcing your own pattern onto the universe, and you've let go and are taking it as it is. And that's an entry point to your genius. Your genius is made up of those moments when you open up to what it is you most love to do and let go of controlling all of that stuff that you've been bound up in thinking about, and simply put your attention on doing what you most love to do. So the Epictetus algorithm, memorize that, put it into your phone, write it on your mirror, take a can of spray paint and go down. No, don't do that. Don't want graffiti all over the town. But if you have a can of spray paint, go ahead and spray it in your own garage. But I want you to remember this idea that freedom is right at hand by letting go of controlling something that you don't have any control over anyway. It's one of the most amazing feelings. It took me a long time to kind of feel it in all its magnificence, but now I've been living with that idea for, decades. And there's this sense of spaciousness that I feel as a result of repeatedly applying that idea over and over again, and making the genius move. There's a sense of freedom and open and spaciousness that is just remarkable to feel. And I want you all to do whatever is necessary to get that feeling in yourself at all times. Hey, let's pause and have a few questions and comments and things like that. How's that sound, Michelle?
That sounds good. So we had a question from Tracy a little while back.
Thank you. And thank you. I feel like this is a little private lecture. So it's amazing. Thank you for doing this with us tonight. So my question was, as I was doing both of the exercises, there was a thought that came to my head, like, I absolutely love talking to people, and have these memories as a child of, spending hours and hours on the phone with my friends every day, just talking to people. And so what I was curious about is, how do I know whether in the moment what is emerging for me is actually like the universe speaking to me to help me illuminate what my genius is, versus a preconceived notion that I had of what I love to do or what I'm good at, or if those two might be the same?
Great question, Tracy. The way I like to think of it is, as you open up more to your direct creative connection to the universe, lots of stuff bubble up. And the way I do it is just write it all down and keep a whole notebook full of things that bubble up in my mind. 99% of them I won't ever pursue. Like, I've got a whole file on my computer called books I'm probably never going to get around to writing. And I think I've got like at least 10 and maybe more, like 15 or 20 little chunks of stuff that I've done over the years that, seemed interesting at the time, but I'm just not going to pursue it. So I recommend that you kind of take stuff and not do a lot of judging and evaluating, just bring it on through and then let it sort itself out by coming back to it later and saying, okay, how does this hold up in the light of day?
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Hi, Gay.
Hi, Judy.
I'm super excited to talk because I've thought of contacting you for like the last year. Like, I bet if I talked to Gay, he'd give me something in a second. That would be really cool. So I love this conversation. And when I went in to open myself to my genius, I felt a block. And this is what I wanted to talk about. I've been dealing with a health issue for about 4 years. And it seemed to be chronic fatigue, although I just had 2 highly infected teeth removed, and I'm going to have my 3rd front tooth removed on Friday. But it was a long process of self-diagnosis and having my medical doctors not agree with me, telling me I was fine and didn't need this. So I get into like, what am I committed to? Like, did I commit to this? What am I, there's this part of sort of, what am I doing wrong? So all of that, and I feel teary. I just remember one time you did a coaching with me years ago where you told me something that has just stuck with me, like a shift move that like, I'm just like so wanting something to, I'm just so wanting something that will help me. I'm wanting to get better. I'm wanting to be well. And I've been struggling.
Mm-hmm. So tune in with me for a moment and just get in wonder mode. And bring a wonder question for the illness. The idea is, what can I learn from my illness by wisdom so that I don't have to have any more unpleasant experience? So you always have an opportunity to learn in life through wisdom or experience. And sometimes you have to learn through experience. You can't have a baby without learning how to do it in your body. You can't come into it in a mental way. And the same thing goes with opening up to understanding an illness. And so take a moment to let yourself open to learning by wisdom anything that you haven't been able to learn by experience so far. Just extract the full message that the illness was trying to bring to you. Maybe you don't know about what it is right now, but just opening to that, wondering, what else does it have to teach me here? And let it teach me by wisdom rather than through any unpleasant experience. Also, since we're on the subject of genius, another good question, and I'd like you to wonder about this with a real open heart, not in any way criticizing yourself, but ask yourself, how is this illness distracting me from expressing my genius? How am I using this as an upper limit problem to distract me from expressing my genius? And if so, come in and make a deeper, sincere commitment to bringing forth your genius. I suggest also, I'm sure there'll be a recording of this. I suggest that you come back and watch this a couple of times and go through it again, because it's kind of hard to get it the first go around. But the general idea is, instead of directing any kind of criticism at your illness, open up and wonder about it with an open heart, because that's often what will lift the rest of it out of your body.
Thank you.
Oh, my eye is on the clock here. I've got one more big, gigantic concept I want to share with you, and then I'll come back and do more questions, okay?
All right, let's do that.
You get to be first. So the last big point I want to cover is the other big idea that's in the new book is the genius move. And the genius move is based on partly on the Epictetus algorithm and partly on the Einstein algorithm. The Einstein algorithm is based on his story about when he was asked to explain the theory of relativity to some school kids, he said that it goes like this. A minute sitting on a hot stove goes by like an hour, but an hour with your girlfriend or boyfriend goes by like a minute. Why is that? Well, in my explanation of it, the reason that is because when you're with your beloved, all of your cells want to expand and embrace and include the other person. That's the nature of union. Whereas when you're sitting on a hot stove, all your cells want to get away from the experience. They want to contract away from the experience. And that makes time slow down. Whereas when you're expanded in love or being with the person you love, whoosh, time doesn't matter. You're in a timeless zone. And so you look up and you say, oh my gosh, we've been here an hour. We've got to go pick up the kids after soccer practice or whatever you're having to do. So the key is about expansion. Whether you're expanding out into the moment, out into the universe, or you're contracting away from it. So when we're in expansion mode, that happens to be where a lot of the beauty and goodness of life happens, because you're lined up with the way the universe is actually going. You probably remember from high school physics that some smart dudes back in 1927 figured out that the universe is expanding away from the center. It's expanding out toward the periphery. And in my humble cosmic opinion, that's why if we can get ourselves living mostly in expansion mode, expanding into more wisdom, expanding into more of our ability to feel our feelings, expanding more into being able to share cellular space with our beloved people around us. When we're able to be in that kind of expansion, we're going in the same direction the universe is going, so things go very well. But when we contract against the basic flow in ourselves, when we contract against our emotions or contract away from our spiritual promptings, life gets kind of rough because we're not participating with the way things are going. So take a few moments and let's take it into the very practical. So the genius moment is when you notice you're stuck or feeling out of sorts in some way. And instead of trying to distract yourself from that or make it go away, you expand into more awareness. You open up and you embrace it. And in that moment, the genius move occurs. When you uncontrol that thing you've been controlling, the genius move is the moment of expansion into space, the moment of expansion into the universe itself. It's something you have to feel to believe. It's something you have to catch yourself in a moment of being stuck and then open up instead of shying away from it, embracing it, expanding your awareness into it. One of my early mentors, Jack Downing, he had a great image that he told me early on. He said that most people think that there are two faucets in life, one faucet marked pleasure and another faucet marked pain, and that many people think their idea of living is to keep turning up the pleasure faucet and keep turning down the pain faucet. And he said, but it doesn't work that way at all, because there's only one faucet and it's marked awareness. It doesn't have anything to do with pleasure or pain. You just turn up more awareness or you turn it down. That's what happens. So in those moments when you find yourself stuck or out of sorts, the genius move is to let go of controlling the uncontrollable and make a conscious moment of expansion, a conscious moment of opening up to more space. That will serve you well because it takes you into that zone of the timeless. It takes you into the zone where you're not trying to control every moment, but you're simply open to the moment. That has enormous power to it. So take a moment and just take that idea out of your mind and put it down in your body. Take a few easy breaths. I want to also, those of you that want to get the new book, if you go to geniuszonebook.com, back there on the piece of paper behind me, there's a download that you can get free if you buy the book through there. It's one of those things where you buy your book from Amazon or wherever you want to buy your book, and then you put in the receipt and you can download this really good, if I do say so myself, guided meditation that takes you through the key affirmations of the Big Leap and the new book, The Genius Zone. It's about 15 minutes long, and that's the only place you can get it. So go there if you buy the book and download at geniuszonebook.com. Well, good. I see by the old clock on the wall here that we're almost wrapped up. Why don't we take another question or two, and then I'll say goodnight.
That sounds great. All right, Brian.
I'm founding a company with the goal of putting the integrity skills at the heart. And I've been very fortunate to find a brilliant co-founder who is innately curious about everything and game to try and learn. He's 27 and I'm 41, and we experienced the bliss of union together in coming into it. And then he revealed that he has another startup that he wants to pursue more than what we're doing. And in this past week, I've been seeking to integrate that. And where we are is we don't know if it's the right time to start something new or not, but there's an exogenous component, which is investors are interested in the space right now and they might not be later. And so we're trying to balance that. What's going on for me is I now recognize I'm experiencing a genius moment. And what you just shared of expanding into that. And I actually just have a request, which is I would love to enter into my genius moment with your support. Because tomorrow we meet to decide what it is we will do. And I would love to expand into that. I'm getting to live in my genius. I've gotten to take so many leaps to this moment, and the world feels incredibly spacious and everything feels new. And I'm seeking to orient myself to living in the unknown.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, congratulations. That's definitely the right direction to be moving in. And specifically regarding tomorrow, though, one of the best things you can do right now is focus in on that question tonight and say, what am I trying to control here? Or what might I be trying to control that is not within my power to control? And focusing in on how I want it to be now, how I'd like it to be now. So letting go of any control that you have in the situation so that the whole creative essence of the moment can come through.
I want us to be together, and I'm not in control of whether that continues to be true.
Beautiful. And just out of curiosity, does this remind you of any other times in your life when you've come up against similar kinds of divisions like this? Yeah.
Very, 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 very familiar, very core. I'm sort of, I don't believe I'm importing my past. Stuff is showing up that was there for me to come into relationship with.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you're aware of that, though, because that's really going to be useful. So just acknowledge that and love where you've been and get ready to be in a whole new now tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, my goodness, time flies when you're in your genius zone, doesn't it? Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thunderous applause. Thank you very much. It's been great being with you all. I'm glad I had the opportunity to stop by and talk about my favorite subject with my favorite folks. And so much love to you all. And Michelle, do you have any kinds of words of benediction or anything you need to say to these fine people?
Well, I just want to thank you so much, Gay. What a wonderful, wonderful class. And I've put a lot of things in the chat, a lot of resources. So videos with Gay, teaching breathing. We've got a lot of resources on the foundation for consciousliving.org. So please join us there, and the network, so you can save the chat and get all of those links. So do that now so you don't miss that opportunity. Thank you, Gay. Wonderful, wonderful. Mwah. And if everyone wants to unmute and say goodbye, that would be fabulous.
Thank you, Gay.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you so much.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gay.
Yay.
Thank you.